I do remember that there were also people from Africa. How can I help you? I'm sorry, I'm sure you see what I'm doing. ¿Ve lo que estoy haciendo?
No.
Puede preguntarle a otra persona.
No me diga qué estás haciendo, por eso.
Estoy grabando un video.
Ah, disculpa.
No se preocupe, papi. Hello, YouTube. I'm sure you don't know me, but I hope in the future you will. My name is Noel Ondo, MBA. This is something that I've been wanting to do for quite some time, and I just feel like this is the perfect time to do it. And this is my introduction. I am from West Africa. I came in the United States all the way in 2009, and since then I've pretty much learned that America is not what the movies portray it to be, and I just feel like I have spent enough time here in the American society to kind of understand what this place is about and what things to stay away from, and also what knowledge is to acquire. Now, let me start by introducing myself. I'm gonna take my glasses off. Now, the reason why I took my glasses off is because I know myself, and one of the things about myself is that I have anxiety. Now, as an African in America, having anxiety, I don't know if it's the same as everybody else, but I can only speak for myself, and it all started when I was in my middle school, because I was the only black kid that spoke Spanish and was from Africa. Now, how is that possible? I can definitely do a breakdown when it comes to my country and our history, and also why I speak the languages that I speak. One of the languages that I speak is Spanish. The second one is English. The third one is French. The fourth one is Portuguese. Eu falo português e entendi. And the fifth one is Fang, which is our traditional language, Ambolan Oneya. And yeah, so this is gonna be a journey that I hope it inspires other people that come from my country and that are in my country, and that maybe they feel the same way and probably have similar experiences, and maybe they want to open up and they don't know how to. Maybe they have been silent for quite some time because they don't feel like there's enough people that can relate to them. And I think that's why I'm here, and I think that's why I feel like there was some kind of calling for me to join the YouTube community when it comes to speaking on behalf of people that come from the African continent, and that just have different morals and values and family cultures, contrary to the Western society. And I'm just happy that, I was able to get the confidence to pretty much just stand in front of this camera and, talk to you guys and tell you about my experiences, so that I can motivate the next generation to stand up not only for what they believe in, but also what our history is. Because I think that, I personally think that we are living in a generation where history is being completely erased, and there's a new wave of, you can call it synthetic, genetic, artificial crowd, agenda, belief system that is taking over, and I think is being pushed around the world. And because I have lived in America for 14 years, I think I've got a pretty good insight on tips to give people who are planning to come to America, and tips to give people that maybe want to, experience what it is to live in America. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I feel a little bit more confident and kind of have my anxiety a little bit under control. And I can tell you history behind my anxiety and how pretty much it all started, and pretty much what I have done to pretty much control it. So, history behind my anxiety started pretty much when I was in middle school, and I just felt completely outcast by people that were from Latin America. You can say Colombia, Cuba, Venezuela, Dominican Republic. But I think it was just because we were young and we did not really understand our backgrounds. We were just in school and it was silly. And it was my first introduction into, I don't know if I would say American society. Yeah, I would say American society and the school system. So I came, got you bitch. And I just knew that I was always going to be different from my family. So I pretty much just dove in. I dove in and took it however it came. You know, if one of the things that I experienced first in middle school, I remember that it was bullying, right? And it was because I was completely different, right? I was that kid, that black kid in the whole school who knew how to speak Spanish better than they did. Even to this day, you know, I'm constantly reminded when they hear me speaking Castellano, which is not the same Spanish as Latin Americans, they will feel as if I won't say threat because there's nothing dangerous behind it, but I think it will be more like inferior, right? They will feel inferior to the language that I possess and how I will speak vernacularly. So that's pretty much one of the things that was like a lamp in my head. Every single time everywhere I went, every single time I would open my mouth, people would look at me. It would be either they like me or they completely dislike me as like, who's this outsider? And I just feel like, you know, it went that way and I just took it however it came. And so first it started in middle school, and then that was kind of the area where where we pretty much moved in 2009. It was pretty much known as a Latino community because it's Coral Gables, and Coral Gables is known for a lot of Latinos to live in it. And that's pretty much where that was my first introduction here. And after that, I made my peace and I learned that a way to live amongst Latinos was to pretty much just stay in your lane and, you know, not kind of be competitive, because there's really nothing to compete, because at the end of the day, everybody has their ignorance and you don't want to take in other people's ignorance. So moving forward, after maybe 2 years, we moved up to North Miami Beach. And then in North Miami Beach, I was introduced into the black community, right? And it was like a diverse kind of place when it comes to the black community, because there was Haitians, right? And I would say Americans. I don't really like to refer black people that are in America as African Americans, because that's what I consider myself. I consider myself African American because I was first born in Africa. I was raised there, and then I came to America as an adolescent. So and I'm also a citizen. So I would say I'm the definition of African American. But anyways, there's history behind the whole African American, and you know, this goes way back in American history. So that's why it's important to know history, because when you know history, you know who you are, and nobody can tell you otherwise. So study history, guys, not only American history. When I was introduced into the black community, it was a culture shock. It was very shocking because the way that everybody treated each other was not the typical, you would say, black and black interaction that I'm used to, right? First, you know, they're pretty much programmed when it comes to like the news and stuff like that. I'm sorry, I'm doing something. How can I help you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And pretty much how they introduced everybody. Yeah, just the interaction was completely different. And once I pretty much was introduced and they noticed that I was completely different, I had no other way other than just to kind of reinvent myself, right? Because the whole statistic, right? There's like this whole system built based on your wages, on your statistics, on your background, right? And as soon as I came into the black community, right, it was a culture shock, right? There were people from all over the world. There were Jamaicans, there were Haitians, there were Americans. Maybe I'll say I don't recall seeing an African, but I do remember that there were also people from Africa. How can I help you? I'm sorry, I'm sure you see what I'm doing.
¿Eh?
I'm sure you can see what I'm doing. ¿Usted ve lo que estoy haciendo?
No,
Puede preguntarle a otra
no
persona.
ni idea qué estás haciendo, por eso.
Estoy grabando un video.
Ah, disculpa.
No se preocupe, papi.
No lo vi ahí. Perdón.
No se preocupe. Buen día. And after that, I pretty much I learned that in order to kind of excel above what people expect me to be, I had to reinvent myself. And that's what I did. So I just decided that, I will kind of create everything on my own, right? I will create my own way of speaking. I will create my own way of fashion or style. I will create my own way of carrying myself, pretty much. So I started taking care of my image. And the same way that I was bullied in middle school by Latinos because of my language, right, and just how different I was, and I could dominate their language better than they could, is the same way that the image that we as black people have here in America, I went against that, right? So I became more of someone who is of class, right? Someone who stands on their morals and values, someone who stands on their last name and know what the importance of last name is and why it should not be ruined but respected. And that went completely against the belief of, you can say, the black community, right? And once they noticed that I was completely different, for some reason, I appeared as a threat to them. And I was bullied second time. Yeah, I was bullied by my own people. And that was the second experience that I had. So when I went through that, I realized that, this is a programming of mass destruction, right? And I know mass destruction sounds harsh, but, the reality in this country is that, there's no bigger crime than, black on black crime. Even though police, they shoot other races, but, I'm talking about the police when they really don't have anything to do with the black and black crime. The crime rate when it comes to the black community is so high. You have such a thin line between life and death when you are in certain kinds of neighborhoods, right? And especially if you are, you can say, walking or working out at a certain time, right? You can get caught at the wrong place, wrong time, right? But moving fast forward, I ended up learning that, all of this crime is just not part of what my background is. So I decided to kind of stay by myself and just seclude myself. And all of that, all it did is just create more and more of my anxiety, right? And something else that I wanted to talk about, right? When I was introduced into the black community, I ended up finishing my middle school there, and that was the first time that I was bullied, but I stood up for myself, right? And I did it in old-fashioned, right? Violence, just straight violence, right? It was violent, and I can tell you that is one of the proudest things in my life that I can actually look back and say, wow, I am proud that I stood up for myself because nobody else would have. So the way that it happened, it was because I was kind of that kid that spoke Spanish and was around Hispanic people only. I had, at this time, I already knew how to get along with society. Don't make too much noise. Don't try to be like you're the coolest person in the room. Don't try to act tough, right? So I just kept everything to myself, and I always kept myself humble and quiet, but very friendly, right? My mom, she says I'm always charming. I mean, I believe that, but I remember when people started to kind of come towards me, right? They started to gravitate towards me because of my energy, my honesty, and just how I carried myself, right? And this is what I learned from the previous middle school on how to carry myself and the importance of image. So once I ended pretty much being in different groups and crews, they were either Hispanic, Latinos, Dominican Republic, it was just pretty much beautiful people with beautiful intentions. So then I started kind of getting bad eye from, my fellow brothers. And yeah, we were just not compatible because that is not something that I was looking forward to. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I don't know if you can see the camera. I'm recording. Sorry. Have a good day. Anyways, after some time, I started creating some noise, but there was this one particular guy who did not really like me, and one day they actually planned to jump me in at lunch. So it was like lunch break, right? And I remember when we pretty much finished eating, and usually after we are done eating pretty much our food, our meal, we will all go into the hallway. And then right there in the hallway, each class will pretty much have to wait for their teacher to come and pick them up so they can pretty much go back into the class. Now, this particular day felt pretty odd because one of my friends, and I think that he actually warned me because or else I would have not been ready. But he came to me and he said, "Hey, Noel, they're preparing to jump you once we go into the hallway." When we went into the hallway, all of a sudden I realized that everybody started to make a circle around me. Now, I was like, what is this circle supposed to be about? And every time I would try to go and like exit, they would kind of like push me to stay in the circle. And it's so funny. And all of a sudden, he came in, that same guy, he came in and got on his stand and, set himself up to fight. And I remember not wanting, any of that because, of course, my mom, if she hears that I got into a fight, it would not be nice. So, I tried avoiding it as much as possible until I was pushed into a corner, right, where, they wouldn't let me out, and he was right in front of me, and when he swung at me, I remember just by instinct, right, there's just this primitive side of me that just activates once danger strikes, right? And when he did that and I dodged it, all I remember is I dodged it, and then I hit him in the jaw. When I hit him in the jaw, his legs collapsed. So then he got on his knees, right? And then right there, I just released hell on him, right? I started just doing what I can do best, which is, fuck him up. And that's what I did. And all I could feel was the rest of either his friends or other people just hitting me, on my head, on my back, all of that stuff, just so that I would get off of him. But there was so much adrenaline that was going through my body and just pumping that there was no way I was going to stop until all of a sudden I just stopped because I heard security, right? Anybody will run when you hear security and you're in a fight. Because one, you do not want to go to the office, right? You do not want to get suspended, and you do not want to go home and tell your mom what happened or your mom to come and pick you up, because that would be another L that you would take. So, and when I heard security, I just went and I took off. They hit me, and the security just found the guy just pretty much bleeding, and nobody said anything about the guy. Nobody said anything of what happened, right? They just said that they found whatever. I don't know what they did, but I know I fucked them up pretty bad. fun fact, that same guy, he actually respects me now to the highest level. You know, he looks up to me. He's friends with me on Instagram, and yeah, no hard feelings. You know, it's just, I guess, that part of life that sometimes boys have to experience, that not all that looks calm is to mess with. Just because there's no waves in the water, it means you should watch out. It means it's deeper than you think. So yeah, that was my experience with my middle school bullying. Now, fast forward, I had the last one, which was in high school, but that will be for another story. Just stay tuned and I will tell you.